Hi, thanks for watching. Okay, now in this video, I just want to follow up kind of on the last video where we're just talking about what I feel is the key aspect of cluster B experience, which is getting absorbed in activated states. Okay, so really the crux of cluster B experience and the path towards maybe a recovery, or working with it, improving your life with these issues is dealing with activated states. Okay, activated states. This is crucial. You know, I personally, I really want to reach out to people who also have cluster B diagnosis. Because anything that can improve the quality of life, I just want to offer just another voice in the choir. Another voice, another possibility, so that we can all develop. We can all go to the buffet of experimentation and just try different things in our lives because I do believe it's possible to really improve the quality of life and really kind of reawaken or awaken even for the first time things that have been really dead in us, really dead in us. We Here's something very important. Okay, when you live a life always being activated, you feel like you're more alive than ever because you're activated, but you don't realize when you're too activated, you're actually killing something else in you. Okay, you're putting it to sleep. Okay, so we need to be really understanding that there's like sugar, the sugar high. I think sugar high is a good metaphor for what we live. You're so high on sugar that you have no vitamin in your life. And then suddenly you're so into the sugar, you're not even interested in the vitamin. Oh, vitamin, boring vitamins. What a bad place to be. What an unfortunate place to be because you feel so alive, but you're just killing yourself, you know. And so I think the metaphor is very, very apt. The idea that when you're so activated all the time, you feel like you're full of so much life. You're more alive than ever, and you don't realize that if you could just cool down that sugar high, so to speak, you know, there's other parts of you that are completely almost dead. And we really need to take that seriously. I really believe in that. So basically, I'm reaching out to people who have cluster B issues, even spectrum issues, not necessarily a diagnosis, people that have anger management, people that just get too caught up in the consumer, rat race, whatever. Just we can all improve our lives because I think all of us in consumer society, in our modern world, there's so much activation out there to be had that we're all kind of on a sugar high, so to speak. And I include myself. We all have to work on this. But really reaching out to the cluster B. So the first thing I want to really reiterate, okay, for cluster B is I don't look too much at the symptoms. Okay, I really get kind of frustrated, when I hear people with NPD talking about, oh, my grandiosity and my envy and my blah, blah. It's like, just forget all that. Just forget it. Because I think it's kind of like if you had a car. If your car is pulling to the right, okay, oh, my car's pulling to the right. My car's pulling to the right. Okay, I'm going to steer to the left. Steer to the left. Okay, well, yeah, you can steer to the left and you'll still ride the straight line, but you're not fixing the problem. Okay, the problem is with your alignment. You have a problem with your alignment or with your what do you call it, the frame of the car or the suspension of the car. So, oh, my car's pulling to the right. Yeah, your car is pulling to the right. That's true. Like, oh, I'm grandiose. Okay, yeah, you're grandiose, but why? What is in the frame of the car or what's in the suspension of the car that's causing the grandiosity? Okay, because the grandiosity is just a manifestation. You need to get down into what's causing it. Like, oh, I feel like I have a stomach ache. Well, you might have a liver problem. You might have a problem with one of your organs. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, I have a stomach ache. No, what is causing it? So I think we really need to look at it like that. So I personally, the envy, the grandiosity, when you really see what the problem is, those are just surface things. I mean, because if you take those away, and on another day you'll have another problem. So like, I really think we need to look deeper into what's really happening, and I believe that what's really going on with the cluster B, the one single issue, just one, is getting overly absorbed in activated states. Okay, so how do we manage activation? Call it the sugar high, call it the dopamine, whatever, call it what you want. It's just metaphors, but we're activated in attitude and towards behavior. So how do we deal with that? How do we come up with a program to deal with our enthusiasms, with our excitements, with our activation, just in general, so we don't get so absorbed. Okay, that's the thing. What do we need to balance, and what do we need to develop in ourselves? So, like, look, I'll be the first to admit, I personally, I'm not a very structured person. I don't like to live a life too structured. If I was, if my personality were an analogy to music, I guess I'm more like jazz than like whatever. Jazz is kind of like free form, whatever. So, but even jazz has a certain structure to it. There's a structure to everything. And so, like, I am not going to make an idolatry of the structure. Like, it's not idolatry, but there should be some structure, because what is our goal? Our goal is to develop a kind of a scaffolding, a kind of a trunk of a tree, so that you can withstand the winds of the weather of life and still have the trunk rooted in the ground. Okay, so that we will still have activated states. The idea is not whether we'll have activated states. We'll be activated every day of our lives, but how consumed, how absorbed are we going to get falling into these activated states? Okay, the idea is not to fall so much into them, or when we are going to fall into a state, that we know what we're falling into, that we know that it's only going to be for a certain amount of time, that it has a kind of an understanding to it, so that we can sometimes fall in, but we do it with mindfulness and we know what we're doing. Okay, because if you don't know what you're doing falling into activated states, you're just being, I'm sorry, it's like you're being a bull in a china shop. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just not a good recipe for life. If you're gonna have, your moments of losing it or whatever, at least have a little bit of awareness around it, okay, and know what you're doing. Because, yeah, I think there is a place for sometimes for us to fall into things, okay, for us to get absorbed into things. I think there are moments, and I think that's part of life, but there needs to be a little bit of mindfulness around that. And so the bottom line is inescapable, that we need a little bit of structure. Also, here, very important, okay, if we're going to develop, any kind of program to get better, okay, we have to design really like a structure, okay, planning in our life to try to prevent things that would really activate us. Okay, so it's so important for someone with NPD or BPD to have a plan to really prevent the possibility of losing a job. Okay, to prevent the possibility of having a situation where you're not welcome at a place of employment. Okay, that is so important. Okay, so what are we talking about? Apart from all the exercises of mindfulness, just in the day to day, whatever, we need to have a practical plan, okay, to minimize the possibility of being caught unemployed. That's so important. Okay, likewise, in our relationships, friendships, we need to enter into friendships and select friendships and even relationships with an eye that we want to avoid having a situation where we end up losing those friendships. Okay, so before we even get into friendships or jobs, we need to have sort of like a plan in advance, okay, of how we're going to select and design and enter into friendships and employment relationships or businesses, whatever, so that we're not going to lose clients, lose jobs, lose friends. We have to really have an approach. So, there's no magic formula for that. Okay. But I think the best way to begin to approach that is to start easy, In other words, start with a job that maybe seems a little easier than what you think is your skill level. Just a little bit, just so that you're not going to ever have to worry about having enough skill for that job. You'll never have to worry about that. You can just focus on getting along with your boss, getting along with the coworkers, and really, making an effort to do that, however that's going to be, and having a good reputation, you know. Nobody cares if you have a bad personality. Nobody cares as long as you show respect and you're just regular and you're contributing. You can be great. You can have no personality. But as long as people know that you're committed and you are committed to doing, to being a good contributor and to helping and to helping and to helping and contributing to wherever that job is. It could just be working at McDonald's. I'm sorry. It could be working at a call center. But you make that something very important, that you're going to be a contributor. It's a team for you, and you're joining that team. It's not your whole life. It's just your job. But when you're at work, it's very serious, because the idea is you don't want to end up unemployed. You don't want to end up having these instabilities that really, really raise up all that reactive, all that activated stuff for us. Likewise with friends. Maybe just don't pick any friend. Pick friends that you can deal with those people. You can mix with those people. They're not challenging. Maybe kind of pick friendships that are, just don't try to go maybe to the most like hotshot people. People that are like really really savvy, people that are really like hip and stuff. Maybe just kind of more modest friend groups. And really put a lot of investment into being a good friend. How important that is. Maybe not have so many friends. Maybe have less friends, more manageable but better quality. And then also relationships. You finally get to that point. A relationship means nothing if you can't invest all of your intention into making that relationship a good relationship. Okay, and how important it is. Okay, so if we don't have those structures set up in advance, that we are committed to not setting ourselves up to losing a job, losing friendships. Okay, it is not good enough for somebody with cluster B recovery and our cluster B recovery to just be mediocre in our work. Oh, I'll take an easy job so I can be mediocre. No, we take an easy job so we can be very not like superstars, not that. No, so we can be very committed and very contributing. So we can be good contributors. Okay, really really important. Okay, so then that's the structure. Okay, now, and also like say getting an apartment, maybe it's better to be roommates and pay less rent or have something that's less hard on the budget, so that if you do have a problem in life, you're not stuck with a huge rent where whatever, or maybe be intelligent about buying a car or whatever, so that you keep your budget modest, so that if there are problems you're not going to get freaked out, because we really have to manage our activation, not to get too activated. Okay, so now how do we deal with the actual experience of activation and excitement and enthusiasm? Okay, that's the other part. One part is the structuring our lives, and then there's a day-to-day. How do we manage the day-to-day? Okay, I think it's good to have a support group. I would say a cluster B person should join a 12-step addiction recovery. And we can just say I'm an addict, and if somebody asks you what you're an addict, well, I have addiction to not having structure in my life, and then and I get too activated, whatever, however you want to say it, you can say what you want, but it's good to have that, because it reminds you every day, that support group reminds you every day, what is my commitment? What is my commitment? Okay, so I think that's very important. And then secondly, how do we actually manage our activations? Okay, like I've said before in other videos, when I was talking about like the dopamine and the serotonin, I think it's very important to try to take the edge off our activations. Just take the edge off, and also experiment. What about the resting spaces between activations? Okay, we need to find more of that resting space between activations and make that kind of a baseline. Okay, and not be afraid of the down spots between activation. Okay, we need to get comfortable and just kind of a cool, just a cooling down. And for sure, you think it's going to be, oh, I'm going to die if I cool down, I need to be excited. No, when you cool down, you'll start to hear the birds chirping, you'll start to hear the breeze. There will be, trust it, have faith in it. Just cool down a little bit. And then when we do get activated, okay, especially when it has to do with anger or disgust or snobbiness or any of those kind of haughty attitudes and all that, whenever we are activated into an attitude, we should try to throw a little spice into it. Okay, not just hot sauce, but throw a little sugar or whatever, honey. I say playfulness. Playfulness is a very good attitude that will throw hostile things more into the play zone. You know what I mean? Just like the difference between when dogs are fighting and when they're playing. The same for us. Okay, so like you can have the same gestures that are like fighting. I get activated into hostility. I get activated into whatever, sarcasm, or looking down on people. But if I could throw the juices of playfulness into that, so it's the same gesture, but it's just playful, that will kind of bring the edge down. Bring the edge down. And I think in all our activations, it's so important that we don't get too edgy in the negative. Okay, playfulness is a good way to kind of soften and temper that, so that when we are activated, it's kind of moderated. Okay, and then obviously we need to find more of the resting spots between the activated states to get more in the valleys. Okay, so we can inhabit a more resting baseline. Okay, so that'll give meaning to when we're activated, so we can even enjoy them more. because when you're always activated, you're going to stop enjoying the activation. So all those things, I think are part of what I would call a program of effective mindfulness. Mindfulness.